Hi, students. This video is about your Essay 2 assignment, which you're going to start working on this week. The Essay 2 assignment is based on a phrase from the A.T. McWilliams article that you're reading this week, in which he refers to the power and the peril of code switching. That's what we're going to write about in Essay 2. So the assignment says, in his essay on the film Sorry to Bother You, A.T. McWilliams writes that the film uses Cassius's surreal code switching to illustrate the tragedy of assimilation. But the reality of the linguistic act is far more complex. And as a tool for social mobility, or in the case of Black people, a tool for survival, it must be examined for both its power and its potential peril. So for your second essay for this class, you're going to examine the power and peril of code switching. And peril just means danger. So McWilliams is suggesting that code switching can give us power, but it can also be dangerous for us. So we're going to be thinking about how that may or may not be true. So to examine the power and peril of code switching in your essay 2, you should discuss at least 3 different examples of code switching we have considered, either through our readings or through Sorry to Bother You. But you could discuss more if you wanted than just 3. For each example you discuss, examine whether the code switching is perilous, a source of power, or both. If you wish, you might also discuss the power of refusing to code switch. For example, when Vershawn Ashanti Young writes an academic essay, he's the one that wrote, Should Students Use Their Own English? When he decided to write that in Black vernacular English, he was refusing to code switch. Normally, academic papers are written in standard English. And he said, I'm not going to do that. So you might discuss how refusing to code switch might be an effective way to avoid its peril, and also might be another way of being powerful if you refuse to code switch. So your paper should include an introduction of at least 5 or 6 sentences that defines the term code switching, and it introduces the essays you're going to be referring to in your essay. In your thesis, you're going to make some kind of claim about the power and peril of code switching. So I just wrote a couple examples here, and these 2 examples only deal with 3 of the works we viewed or read this semester, but your thesis could be about entirely different examples of code switching. I just wanted to give you an idea of what a thesis for this essay might look like. So one is the code switching practiced by Cassius Green and David Califf show that code switching can be perilous in the sense that it can cause us to violate our basic ethics. But the code switching practiced by Brent Staples shows how code switching can give us power we might be denied otherwise. So that's a claim. I'm making a case about the 3 examples of code switching that we've looked at. And then I'm going to prove the points I make in my thesis in the body of my essay using details and examples from the essays and from the movie. Another version of a thesis might be something like the code switching practiced by Cassius Green shows that code switching can be perilous in the sense that it can cause us to betray our friends and harm others. But the code switching practiced by Brent Staples and David Califf shows how code switching can give us the power to deal with systemic bias that is out of our control. As with all essays in college, it may be easier to write the middle of your paper first so that you figure out what you want to say about the examples of code switching you discuss, and then draft your thesis afterwards. So just a reminder that that's often a good way to work. Also, remember, you can discuss any of the writers we've read so far this semester who have referred to code switching. Gloria Anzaldúa talks about just being able to speak English at school. Amy Tan talks about code switching. Vershana Shanti Young does. Keisha Caseta Turner, Michelle Gonzalez. But you might see evidence or important points in any of the things we've read or watched that support your point. So you can refer to any of the essays we've read this semester. And if you want to include an example from your own experience, I think that would be okay too. So just keep all that in mind. I want you to also notice in these two examples of thesis statements for this essay, you don't have to use either of these. You can steal from them, you cannot. I just wanted you to see what a good, strong thesis for this essay might look like. I want you to notice two things that you might want to imitate. Sometimes the best way to learn to do anything is to just imitate somebody else doing it. That's how we learn to walk. That's how we learn to talk. So one thing I do in both is I make a claim. The code switching by Green and Califf is perilous because it causes us to violate our basic ethics. So there's one claim about two of the examples I'm going to be dealing with. And then I say, but the code switching practiced by Brent Staples, and I make a different claim. That might be a useful structure for you to follow in your thesis statement. And remember, your thesis statement can also be more than one sentence. It could be 2 or 3 sentences. So, but if you want to put two contrasting claims into one sentence, using that but to join them can work really well. Also, it's probably a good idea to name the specific examples of code switching you are focusing on in your thesis. So don't just say, code switching can be both perilous and powerful. That's kind of a high school thesis. In this essay, I want you to step up your game a little bit and actually name the specific examples of code switching you're going to be looking at. David Califf's code switching, Amy Tan's code switching, whoever, and make a claim about the power or peril of that. Your essay should also include distinct supporting sections with clear topic sentences which discuss different examples of code switching and whether they are a source of peril, a source of power, or a little of both. So remember, in these different supporting sections, remember your topic sentences are going to make claims. So a topic sentence wouldn't be, David Califf takes off his wedding ring when he goes to visit his grandmother. That's a fact, not an opinion. It's not a claim. So it can't be a topic sentence. You could say, the code switching David Califf does allows him to fight systemic bias, or, you make a claim about it, and then you're going to prove your claim with details and examples from the essay in the rest of that supporting section. In these supporting sections, make sure to include at least 3 direct quotations overall from our class reading or from the movie as evidence for your points. You don't need a works cited page, but you should have in-text citations. And I give you an example here. Just the author's name, space, and the page number in parentheses after the quote, and the period that ends the sentence comes after the parentheses. For citing quotations from the movie, you can just put "sorry to bother you" in parentheses after the quotation. I think technically correct MLA format is to also put in the time where the quote appears in the movie, but that seems too complicated. I know not all of us have a free copy of the movie, so we're not going to worry about that. And then you should have some kind of conclusion. Some questions you might consider in your conclusion are, if code switching is sometimes a source of peril and sometimes a source of power, how do we decide when to do it? What steps might we take to avoid the peril of it? What steps might we take to get the most from its power? This essay should be around 3 to 5 pages long. So that's about 750 to 1,250 words when double spaced in 12-point font, 1-inch margins. A free write on the essay topic is due on Sunday, October 17th by 11:59. An outline and a rough draft are due on next Wednesday, October 20th. The final draft is due on Sunday, October 24th. Also keep in mind, as we're writing about African Americans, in the case of Sorry to Bother You, the main character is African American and he takes on a white voice. Please remember the correct terms to refer to African Americans are Black, African American, or person of color. If you're quoting dialogue from the film that includes the N-word and you're not African American, you should put N-word in brackets like this. When Cash starts to rap, he starts just chanting N-word shit. So just a reminder, it is never okay if you're not African American to use the N-word, even if you're quoting a writer or a movie. And then as before, I've given you a rubric here that shows exactly how I'm going to grade your essay. So make sure to go through the rubric. A lot of people who lost points on essay 1 just lost them because they hadn't read the rubric, or they forgot to double check the rubric, or they hadn't read through the do's and don'ts. So I don't think there was anybody who followed all the directions on essay 1 who had a weak paper. If you followed the directions and you understood the do's and don'ts, you did fine. If you go through the rubric and there are things you don't understand, or if you go through the do's and don'ts, which will be posted next week, and there are things you don't understand, please come see me. I'm very lonely sometimes during my office hours. I would love to help you get started on this essay. So, you know, come to me with any questions you have. You can ask questions, you know, on Canvas too. You can ask questions on Pronto. I'm here to help you. One of the most crucial stages of writing an essay, I think, is when you start drafting your thesis statement and topic sentences, which you might do after you've written a rough draft, or you might do after the free write. I'd be happy if you're drafting your thesis and topic sentences, or you've written half your rough draft, I'd be happy to have you come and say to me, hey, am I on the right track? Am I getting it? That's a great stage to get feedback from your teacher. So keep that in mind too. Also remember, free tutoring at the Learning Center over Zoom. If you do that, you can do synchronous or asynchronous tutoring over Zoom in the Learning Center. Do remember to share this assignment page. It will really help the tutor help you. I think that's it for now. Let me know if you have any questions.